Good morning, and thank you all for being here. My name is Stephanie Aline. I'm Director of Partnerships and Programs here at LISC New York. And we put together this partner convening so that all of our partners from across the state that may not have the familiarity with LISC New York can hear more about our different units, the work that we do, the pillars that we stand on, and hear from you during our breakout sessions about what's important to you, what are your needs, and how LISC can come in as an intermediary, but also as a support to you as we begin throughout the year to continue to convene and gather you and learn from you and build and grow as organizations that support some of our most underserved communities and populations. So once again, I'm asking everyone if you can please populate the chat with your name, your title, organization, and county. Like I said, we are a statewide initiative, so we want to make sure that we get everyone represented in the chat. So we see a lot of downstate. We have a couple of folks from upstate, so we have some Erie County representation. So good to see you. Glad to see you. The other note for housekeeping is please make sure you click the ellipsis on the upper right-hand corner of your screen and go ahead to rename and make sure you name yourself so that we can see all of who is in the room. And with that, I want to go ahead and get started because I value everyone's time and I want to make sure we get in and get out in the time we said that we were going to, because I know you have meetings set up and just want to honor everyone's time. So I'm going to go ahead and share the agenda. I just want to make sure we go over what you can expect today. I shared this with you all via email, but want to just kind of go over it once more so you know what's ahead of you. So we have welcome and opening remarks, which we're currently in the midst of. I will go ahead and bring on Valerie's remarks. After that, we'll have a presentation from each of the different units that comprise LISC New York so that you can learn a little bit about our programs, the work that we do, and how you can be involved and engaged. We have 5 minutes of Q&A. So what we're going to do, since all of you are muted, we're going to ask you to just populate the chat with questions. And when Q&A section comes, we're going to go ahead and read questions that are in the chat. So we're going to ask you not to come off mute, but just really populate the chat with questions. What that also helps us to do is to keep a rolling list of what are some of the questions that people have. Maybe we can't get to them all in this presentation, but we will gladly email any support or any answers that you need, and make sure you get to the appropriate member of staff to support you with your inquiry. Next, after that, we have our breakout rooms. So in our breakout rooms, we have 5 different rooms. We have housing, economic development, workforce development, lending and / community capital investments, and health equity. So in those breakout rooms, it's really an opportunity for a couple of things to happen. Number one, for us to hear from you. What are some of the challenges you're experiencing within that realm of work? But then the other thing is we really want to, as a convener, as an intermediary, bring folks together. So as we're sharing issues across geographies, what are some of the challenges that you all are seeing? What are some of the best practices you can share with one another so that we can all advance in our work? And then wrap up Q&A. We have a couple of announcements. And then there is a survey that will automatically deploy after we end the session. So I just ask that you please complete that survey because it helps us to know what's going to be the best ways to make these kinds of convenings effective and efficient for you. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share Valerie's remarks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Valerie White, and I am the Senior Executive Director of LISC New York. I ask your forgiveness for not joining today's call. I miss seeing you all, and I wish I could be there, and I thank you tremendously for your participation in the 2023 LISC New York Annual Convening. I want to begin my remarks by acknowledging the incredible hard work of each member of my team. Of course, all units from community capital investment, external affairs, housing and programs, all my directors, senior program officers, community development officers, and program officers. Your tremendous hard work continues to generate opportunity across our state, helping organizations access capital and capacity building resources. Thank you. The Local Initiative Support Corporation, or LISC, is a national nonprofit community development financial institution, or CDFI, that equips underinvested communities with the capital, strategy, and technical know-how to become places where low and moderate income people can thrive. LISC was founded in 1982 in New York, and over 40 years later, LISC presence spans across the country with local offices in 38 markets in the U.S. LISC New York is the flagship office providing investment and partnership for underserved communities across our great state. Our work stands on three key pillars. First, radical healing that counters racial bias and inequity through community engagement, thought leadership messaging, policy, and legislative advocacy. Second, inclusive economic transformation that prioritizes capital investment in public infrastructure, capacity building for community partners, diverse enterprises, innovation, and project and programs supporting climate justice. Finally, sustainable wealth generations in communities of color through homeownership, asset building, entrepreneurship, and career ladders in industries of the future. This state is comprised of unique urban and suburban landscapes, cultures, languages, and people. Each organization on this call has a mission akin to our own and is dedicated to driving deep impact to the geographies, communities, and individuals that need it most. We remain alongside our nonprofit partners by continuing to ensure we deploy much needed resources and capital throughout the state. As such, the work of LISC New York continues to support local partners whose services and programs aim to create a more equitable, inclusive, and sustainable New York. We define ourselves as an intermediary whose role is to continue to bring together public and private dollars to residents and local institutions that understand the need best. We bridge relationships and expertise to assist community organizations in attracting the kind of resources that allow you to do your best work. And we leverage our relationships across state agencies and offices to ensure you all access capital resources to develop communities and commercial quarters in this state. The end of this program will be a review of resources being deployed now by state agencies and how you can access those funds. The emphasis of this gathering is to ensure you complete your annual partner survey. Completing your partner survey on an annual basis means we can quickly and seamlessly deploy funding to qualifying partner organizations. Completing your survey means we have the intel to assess which communities are being served and where organizations are seeing success and require support to address service gaps. Your annual partner survey informs our capacity building and business development strategies, which inform our convenings, enables us to establish programs reflective of your needs, and arms us with the numbers we need to advocate for Section 4 funding increases and expand talent pipeline programs like AmeriCorps. Last, this survey ensures that if your organization is connected to a loan officer who can assist you with a loan to develop properties you own at a rate that reflects your ability and does not penalize. As an intermediary, our role is to elevate opportunities through our partners across the state to ensure you have access to capital and technical assistance and improve your immunity to withstand economic, social, and financial changes, as you all are the first line of defense for our most vulnerable communities. Let's continue from this program to convene and converse about our complex challenges impacting our communities, exchange evidence and best practices, creating complementing strategies to solve problems as a collective, and of course, complete your partner survey. Thank you again and enjoy.
We're going to go ahead and kick off into the start of the presentation. So I'm going to share screen again. We're going to start with our overview deck of the work of LISC New York. So I'm going to go ahead and start from the beginning. Hope you all can see that. Can everyone see the slides? Okay, wonderful.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so, and again, don't forget to populate the chat with your information. And also, last bit of housekeeping, on the upper right-hand corner, there's an ellipsis. Go ahead and go, click on that and go to rename and make sure that your name is reflected on the bottom of the screen. You can also put your name, you can put your pronouns, and you can also put your organization. We're going into the general presentation, and I just want to also emphasize that during this portion, you're going to hear from diverse voices on the LISC staff, so that's also very important. During Valerie's address, she mentioned our LISC mission, which is to ensure that we are bringing together private and public funds to nonprofit organizations to ensure that underinvested communities have the capital, strategy, and technical assistance to become places where low and moderate income people can thrive. LISC started over 40 years ago in New York City. Our headquarters and flagship office is here. But as of about 18 months ago, we became a statewide initiative. So now LISC New York combines New York City and Western New York into one office. Our work stands on 3 pillars: radical healing, inclusive economic transformation, and sustainable wealth generation. And again, Valerie addressed this in her, mentioned this in her address, but just want to also mention it here or uplift it here on the presentation. So a little bit about this process. So every single year, organizations are asked by LISC to complete a partner survey. And part of this partner survey is to collect some very important information, including demographic information about your organization, its leadership, organization contact, financial information, information on current programs, information on the communities you serve, and opportunity to upload necessary documents, such as financial audits. All of this information helps us to understand which of our organizations can receive certain federal and state dollars so that we can quickly and easily deploy. In addition, this gives us a sense of who can apply for, or who is able to apply for certain capacity building supports, like the Talent Creation Program, Pipeline Program, AmeriCorps, that was mentioned in the address. We do this year over year because we know that there is sometimes turnover. We know that there is sometimes change in organization, and we want to keep our finger on the pulse of how your organization is shifting and growing as time changes. So this survey is just one of the ways in which we do that. After this call, my colleague Christina and I, who will have an opportunity to meet you all later in the presentation, will be outreaching to each of you to ensure that you receive the updated partner survey. Later in this call, what I'll also do is share screen so you can take a look at what the updated partner survey looks like. If you filled it out before, it's very similar, but what we wanted to do to make it a little bit easier for you all to complete is to let you know upfront what are the resources and materials you're going to be asked for, so that you can compile that, have it in one centralized location, maybe on your desktop or your office desktop computer, so that you can easily and seamlessly upload, and the process of completing the survey takes a bit less time. We also included our contact information there as well, so that if you have any questions or you need any support while filling out the application, the survey, you can go ahead and reach out to us and we'll gladly support you with that. Just want to emphasize on this call, and we'll also do so by email, that the partner surveys are due November 17th. So we gave you a chunk of time to ensure that you can go through the survey, answer all questions, ensure you have all updated documentation, and complete that process. A little bit of what we learned from last year's partner survey were some of the top program areas that you all are providing service for. So a lot of our organizations are providing service with regard to affordable housing, economic development, youth services, small business services, health equity, advocacy and organizing, and financial literacy. We want to understand, as funding needs and as strategies have shifted and changed over the year, what are some of the top program areas you're still continuing to service, and how does that support the catchment area that you serve as well? Common community needs, access to affordable housing and rental assistance, small business support specifically for minority-owned businesses, access to stable living wage jobs, access to healthy foods, and general COVID-19 recovery support. I understand that some folks may feel that we are moving post-pandemic, but there are very real ramifications from that period of time. And we want to ensure that all of the underinvested communities that need continued support continue to receive that. And we learned that through a lot of you. Organizational goals for 2022 for many of our organizations were really focused on COVID-19 recovery efforts, as many still are, expanding housing and home ownership, and working toward the closure of the racial wealth gap, and promote and expand diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Organizational challenges and capacity building needs, top of the line was funding. Many of our organizations continue to experience funding shortages, development and real estate, staffing and board. That includes professional development and retention, upgrading technology to ensure that you have the data systems and financial systems you need in order to accurately and currently keep tabs of the information that your organization needs in order to satisfy reports for funding, and also to keep a history and log of your own internal uses, and racial and equity analysis. I'm going to turn over to my colleague, Director of External Affairs, Lachey Young, to give us an overview of our performance snapshot for year 2023.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to see everyone on the screen from statewide. As Stephanie said, my name is Lachey Young. I'm the Director of External Affairs for LISC New York. Under External Affairs, I handle all of our communications, marketing, PR, policy and advocacy work, as well as fundraising and development. I know there's many of you that I've had conversations with, so good to see all of you. So just looking very quickly at the LISC New York performance snapshot. So when we look at the investments on top, that's based upon our community capital investments team, which we'll hear from later on. So far in this year, we have done 18.9 million through our community capital investments team, which has leveraged another 200 million. And that reflects 601 affordable units developed or preserved, and that is statewide, so across New York State. It also reflects 129,000 square feet of commercial and community space as well, looking at that particular investment. Also looking at a lot, as Stephanie has stated, through the partner survey and understanding, the larger universe of our partners, we're able to deploy capital when we have grant programming. If there's a funder we're working with, or just a certain program that we want to stand up very quickly, be able to deploy, it's very helpful to have that information from you all, so we're able to get that out very quickly. So when we're looking at the $750K in small business relief grants to BIPOC-owned businesses, part of that is also understanding the universe of businesses that we have throughout our partners, and being able to get that out to the community very quickly. Also, looking at, we had stood up, if I know we all remember the unfortunate tragedy that took place on in May of last year at the Tops for the Market in East Buffalo, and we were able to stand up a fund very quickly and deploy resources along that area, and we were able to deploy $375,000 to Black-led nonprofits and for-profit businesses following that tragedy. Again, this is understanding who our partners are on the ground, who they have in their particular catchment area, and really being able to work with you all to be able to deploy those resources quickly. There's been a lot of conversation already about capacity building. So again, going directly to the partners that we work with, we've been able to deploy 1.9 million in grant funding to community-based organizations to date this year. Once again, I'm going to keep on reiterating the survey, understanding the needs of our partners. And when we have that funding coming in, we're able to go through very quickly and understand who is eligible for this, who we're able to get this out to very quickly. And again, our mission is to help, our partners and be able to, fill in the capacity needs that you all have in whatever ways that we're able to do. Also looking at the AmeriCorps program, we were able to place 12 AmeriCorps members across the state with 11 community-based organizations. Cash and Fellows, that is a New York City-based specific program. And that we were able to place 10 fellows in 9 community-based organizations here in New York City. And then also looking at HUD Section 4, that's a huge program that LISC, and there are 2 other entities that are able to disperse Section 4. So this is really where that kind of capacity building grant support is coming out of. And we've done over 500,000 this year. So again, this all kind of turns back around to having the survey, especially when it comes to HUD Section 4 specifically, understanding the partners who qualify, because it is a federal program. So there's a bit more scrutiny as far as who is able to receive those funds. So having those documents and everything that Stephanie said is very important. So when we, have the ability to be able to disperse out capacity building grants, we're able to get those out to you all quickly. Over to the right, that's just a quick snapshot of some of the programs that we do. Again, some of this you'll hear a bit more later on, looking at Developers of Color and NILAP. Those are some of our housing programs. Monica Dean, she'll be able to go over that a bit more later on. And also, again, looking at Small Business Relief and Recovery Fund, and that also is tied into technical assistance. That's something that we've kind of done on a rolling basis since COVID. It was a much larger program throughout COVID, but again, we have funders that come to us. A few examples: General Motors and out in Western New York, that want to specifically target, a certain population of small businesses, and because we have that model set up, we're able to disperse those very quickly. We can move on. Move on to the next slide. I don't know who's. Okay, and just looking at this quickly, this is not a reflection of all of these areas, but just a quick snapshot, looking at some of our larger funders throughout the state. Very appreciative. I think there's a bit of representation of some of the LAC members from Western New York on here, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you all very much. Also, again, a snapshot of nonprofits, our partners that we work with, again, statewide. This is, again, not just a quick snapshot, not the full listing of everyone that we work with, but again, always looking to grow our partnerships across the state. And again, part of it is the survey. And then again, we also work with our state and local governments in different agencies, looking at like HPD in New York City, New York Empire State Development. We have a program that we have with them going on in Buffalo. NYCHA, we work with the PACT program that's coming out of NYCHA, and also, like I said, like the city of Buffalo, you know, just creating these partnerships, because being able to make those connections between being an intermediary, we're able to make those connections between, you know, those entities and smaller nonprofits, and able to disperse, or, you know, gather resources and disperse those out. You can go to the next one. I think I have one more.
That is
That's it.
Yep,
It.
that
Oh,
was it.
thanks.
Thank you so very much, Lachey. That was a wonderful overview. Again, want to just elevate some of the key priority areas for us. So that would be affordable housing, economic development, workforce development, and financial mobility, and health equity. Also, housing is very important, and it gets its own very special section because it's extremely important to you all, but just wanting to make sure to uplift that in addition to these four, we understand that some of them may have extra emphasis in different geographies. And one of the things I want to mention is that the housing breakout session is actually going to have 2 separate breakout sessions. So I just want that to be kind of indicative to everyone on the call of how important that subject is to not just the geographies that we serve, not just the city, but across the whole state. So just want to elevate that real quick. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Rhonda Lee, so that she can lead us through our affordable housing unit.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Rhonda Lee Davis. I'm a senior program officer here at LISC New York. I work alongside Monica Dean, who is the director of housing, and Matthew Mathias, the housing program officer, and you'll be hearing from them both later on during the breakout sessions. So the LISC New York team oversees 3 programs that provide housing solutions across New York City and New York State. The New York Land Opportunity Program, or NYLOP, and this is an avenue through which LISC New York partners with faith-based and mission-driven organizations to develop affordable housing on vacant, underutilized property. Developers of Color program is another program that we have, and this program helps MBE developers really expand their capacity and competitiveness to gain project access to New York State's housing development pipeline. And of course, the wealth opportunity realized through homeownership, or Worth BIPOC initiative, which seeks to create 5,000 new BIPOC homeowners in New York City through homeownership preservation and purchases by the end of the 2025 year. So during 2023, the housing team has really built on our existing housing programs to further reach of NYLOP and DOC programs across New York State, while also launching the New York City Homeownership Network, which is a part of the Worth initiative. We are well on our way to achieving the goals set out for 2023, in that we've completed the first annual NYLOP convening in Albany, and that was last month. And we've also deployed financing, or assisted in the deployment of financing for 601 units of affordable housing so far this year. Our program director and our program officer also launched the 3rd and the 4th DOC cohorts, and that 4th DOC cohort, of course, was a cohort of developers, alumni developers from the previous 3 DOC cohorts. And for Worth, we have gone ahead and we've registered 2,000 New Yorkers to the network, and are set to achieve our goal of 1,000 homes preserved by the year end. Looking ahead, the team is really working on launching the 5th DOC cohort, which kicks off on November 15th, and launching a cross-market DOC cohort during the first quarter of 2024. That's just a brief overview of the work of the housing team here at LISC New York. And we are also able to, you'll be hearing more from the team during the breakout sessions, and they'll be talking more about the programmatic goals for 2023 and 2024. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Rhonda Lee. And now I'm going to turn it over to our latest community development officer, Catherine Dolan, to lead us through economic development.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. All right, so I just want to review with everybody today a few pieces of our economic development activities. So LISC New York is fortifying BIPOC-owned businesses in underserved communities, so they not only survive the COVID-19 pandemic, but also thrive long-term. Some of our highlights include 8 BDOs providing 313 750 in technical assistance grants to bolster 693 BIPOC small businesses in the city. We've also closed on 7.9 million in economic development loans in commercial space, so 129,531 square feet of commercial space. And our 2023 year-end goals include fortifying and growing our BDO network to continue supporting the resiliency of BIPOC-owned small businesses, to close at least 7.5 million in loans to support at least 2 economic development projects, to strengthen partnerships and innovate financing tools that support our MWBE firms to access contracting opportunities, and finally, to administer 3 million Empire State Development Grant Program for East Buffalo. Next slide, please.
That is it. One of the things I also want to uplift just with regard to economic development is that through LISC funding, as was made mention in this slide, there are a significant amount of BIPOC-owned businesses that are being supported, and we want to make sure that we continue to extend that support. So we'll be developing a supplier diversity list. These are the businesses that we have given some kind of funding to, that will go through an interview process to ensure that they are providing the quality of service that we think our partners would benefit greatly from. And we expect once that's launched, our partners will lean into us to continue to utilize these businesses for a variety of services that may meet your needs. From catering to floral, we want to make sure that we're continuing to uplift and support businesses, whether or not the grant opportunities are available through them, doing the work that they already do so well. So just want to uplift that as well. Thank you so much, Catherine. And I'm going to turn it over to Christina Delaventura, Community Development Officer, LISC, for Workforce Development and Economic Mobility.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. It's nice to see some familiar names on the call and some new names. Like Stephanie said, I'm Christina Delaventura. I'm a Community Development Officer on our LISC New York programs team, and I'm based in the New York City office. And I'm excited I have these slides because I love talking about workforce development and financial mobility. This is what I kind of specialized in prior to working for LISC New York. I was on our Connecticut team. So workforce development, LISC's main program in this area is called our Financial Opportunity Centers. So those are career and financial coaching centers that provide integrated services to individuals and families with low to moderate incomes to help them achieve financial stability and financial mobility. So LISC partners with community-based agencies that are providing these services, and we help to expand those services, provide funding, staff training, and a couple of other supports in this area. Financial Opportunity Centers have access to a national network of other groups that are working on the same stuff, which is pretty cool. And right now we have 2 financial opportunity centers in New York City. The first is at Fifth Avenue Committee. They've been in FOC for about 12 years. And the second one is at the Knowledge House, which is launching this year a Bridges to Tech Careers program. So sort of like the second layer of financial opportunity centers are Bridges to Career Opportunity Centers, which are a little more career training focused. So that's very exciting. That's launching in January. And then in Buffalo, we have 2 FOCs, one at Northland and one at Buffalo Federation for Neighborhood Centers. In addition to that official program, we're also using Section 4 dollars and other means to support the workforce development programming and expansion at a number of nonprofits. So this past year, we provided a grant to New York Urban League to bring on a career coach to help them expand their workforce development. And we're also expanding our own partnerships with CUNY and SUNY and other local, regional, statewide partners to tap into those career pipelines and create more opportunities. So whether you want to officially become an FOC or you want to talk about workforce and the ways we can partner in those initiatives, we're always interested in this area and always looking to support.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and lead us through health equity. So just a little bit of a recap of some of the work that we did. LISC New York was awarded $10 million for a NYSERDA Clean Transportation Prize to focus on active, clean mobility and infrastructure on the east side of Buffalo. In 2022, just at the end of the year, we saw the program evaluation of the Bridges to Health Equity program, which confirmed that CBO partners were successful at supporting individuals to not only manage their asthma, but provide referrals to much needed wraparound services around health and social needs. We also received competitive internal funding to support the creation of a new program, Building Commercial Corridor Ecosystem for Climate Action, which is an innovative program that will impact communities' economic development and health outcomes. And by the year end, we want to work on developing a statewide strategy for health equity and climate justice, leaning into all of our partners and the initiatives around the state. Creating new partnerships with CBOs and city-state agencies working in the social determinants of health and health equity space, launching new climate justice programs in transportation and mobility sectors, and strengthening resiliency of small business partners for disaster mitigation. Okay. That's a little bit of an overview of our work of health equity. And now I'm going to turn it over to Director of, oh my gosh,
Community Development
Chris.
Investments.
Oh my gosh, Christina, I always do this with your title. I'm so
It's all
sorry.
right.
Director of Community Capital Investments, Christine. Thank you so very
Hi,
much.
good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. And I see some familiar faces, some folks we have already done work with in the lending realm, in addition to the other supports that we've been talking about this morning. So I'm going to give a brief overview of what our lending team, which was rebranded as the Community Capital Investments team in 22, what we offer and what we can do for our partners. Next slide. So this is a snapshot of LISC overall. Since 1979, we have invested over 29 billion, and I think that these numbers are maybe a little bit outdated. So I think we've done even more since these numbers were captured. But we've leveraged over 82 billion. So that means public subsidy invested, tax credits invested, other sources that have brought affordable housing and economic development projects to fruition since 1979. So that looks like 489,000 homes across the country. It looks like 81.4 million square feet of economic development, like commercial spaces, retail, community space. We do invest in childcare centers, schools, recreational spaces, healthcare centers, grocery stores, financial opportunity centers, and art spaces. We've been doing a lot within the arts sector, small manufacturing, theater, things like that. Our organization has over 374 million of net assets, and we are rated by Standard & Poor's with a AA- rating. Next slide. So for 2023, I think it's already been mentioned, but we've invested to date 18.9 million. We have a goal for this year that we are going to exceed of 31 million. So there's more to come, but to date it's 18.9, and that's 200.4 million leveraged. That looks like 601 units of affordable housing, and 129,000 square feet of commercial and community space. Some of these other snapshot statistics have already been mentioned, so I'm not going to go into them regarding AmeriCorps, cash and fellows, and grant funding to CBOs. Next slide. Okay, so if you're familiar with our lending products, I hope that this is, you know, that maybe some of this is surprising, but if you're not familiar, we're happy to say that we provide pre-development and acquisition financing. We provide construction and mini permanent, as well as bridge or lines of credit. We invest in community facilities, mixed use, commercial, economic development, charter schools, and affordable housing. As a community development finance institution, all of our lending has a community development purpose. So that's why we talk about affordable housing versus market rate. We do not invest in strictly market rate, but if a project is partially affordable, it's something we would take a look at. And in that vein of taking a look at projects, we are very interested to work with our prospective borrowers to vet projects. If a project isn't ready to go to the lending stage, we could provide some guidance and technical assistance to get a project from an idea, or you know, some groundwork has been laid, but it needs some additional work. We will give that kind of guidance, and we do that all the time. You can give us a call, reach out. We've started to streamline our processes, so we have an intake form, and that intake form will give any prospective borrower a really good idea of what we're looking for. We're not trying to be a black box. We're not trying to prevent borrowers from doing business with us. We're trying to make it really accessible, our products really accessible and supportive for projects that may not typically be financed by a traditional private bank. Next slide. So this is an overview of those products and our terms. I'm just going to give a couple of highlights. Our pre-development loan is up to $2 million. If the pre-development loan is under $500,000, we don't require collateral. We have pre-development loan with up to 3 years. Acquisition, construction are also up to 3 years or 36 months. Our rates today are 8%, but because we are an intermediary and we're constantly leveraging resources to put back into the community, sometimes we have subsidy that can help bring the rate down, or work with the project to find other ways to make it feasible. It's dependent upon who the borrower is. It's dependent upon what type of project it is, but we often have some kind of subsidy source to help make the project more feasible. Our fees are very straightforward. We have an origination fee of up to 1.5%, and we have legal fees for in-house counsel. Next slide. These are some of the additional lending products in those terms: permanent, bridge, and working capital / line of credit. And I believe we'll share this presentation outward after the call. So if you're interested to read all this very fine print, you can do that with the presentation that we'll send out after. Next slide. So I'm just going to give a couple of highlights of projects that we've closed and what those projects look like. We provided a pre-development loan in 2018 to Infinite Horizons, a certified MWBE firm. That pre-development loan was $250,000, which helped the project get to, you know, the construction loan closing. At this point, I think the project is still working towards their construction loan closing. And that, you know, just as a highlight, that's one of the ways that we support our borrowers. We always assume that we're going to get to a construction loan closing within term, but there are things that happen like natural disasters or pandemics, or just, you know, typical delays because of shifts in the development team or financing needs. And so as a CDFI, we consider ourselves patient capital, and we will work with projects to make sure that they are successful. Next. This is another pre-development loan that we did in Buffalo this year. It was for the African Heritage Food Co-op. The project is moving through the pre-development stage, and we expect to also support the construction financing for the African Heritage Food Co-op, likely sometime next year. Next. So because this is a statewide convening, some of these relationships that I'm going to mention are New York City specific, but others are statewide. So we leverage partnerships. We are an originator under the New York City Acquisition Loan Fund, which provides, there are 4 originators in the city of New York, but we provide acquisition financing for projects that are going to be supported by public construction debt, like HPD, New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development, which is another partner on this list, or HDC, Housing Development Corporation. In addition to working with the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development, we are also a partner with HCR, Division of Housing and Community Renewal for the state of New York. So any of their term sheets that they provide, we can also provide lending under those term sheets. We do provide permanent financing through the New York City Employee Retirement System, or NYCERS. We also have a statewide permanent originating lender that we can do business with. So if you're looking for a 30-year term, which LISC does not provide, we have other partners that can help facilitate those financing needs. And our affiliates, National Equity Fund, or NEF, and New Market Support Corporation, which was just rebranded as Broad Street Impact Services. We do business with them and can make referrals and relationships with those 2 affiliates. Next. This is another spotlight. This was a loan originated from through the New York City Acquisition Loan Fund. It's called Marcus Garvey Apartments. It was a $6.5 million loan to acquire the property to build 169 new units of affordable housing. Next. I think mentioned earlier by Rhonda Lee. So our team is also, the CCI team is also heavily engaged in the Developers of Color and NILOP programs. We provide support where we can, pre-development, construction, permanent financing, and also do a lot of the technical assistance to get projects that meet our criteria moving forward. And we also have the New York City Inclusive Creative Economy Fund, which is fully subscribed, but it's important to know that as one of our focus for lending, we've invested in nonprofit and mission-driven organizations in the art space, as well as light manufacturing. Next. La Mama was one of the projects financed under the Inclusive Creative Economy Fund. It's a theater in Lower Manhattan. It's a historical, located in a historical building and has been around for about 30 years. We provided a $3 million construction loan, which is really a bridge loan from public sources that were pending. And we've continued to work with La Mama to make sure that the project has a successful completion and conversion. Next. This is another project, Evergreen Exchange. I hope you're getting a real taste of the work that we do. There's quite a few examples. So Evergreen Exchange is light manufacturing in Brooklyn on Stagg Street. We provided a $5.8 million acquisition and construction loan to rehab the existing industrial structure. Next. Okay.
And that part is for me. So I'm just going to kick in. And again, as Christine mentioned, we are going to share this slide so that you can have the contact information for all staff. I think you've heard a little bit about each of the units. Between this section and the breakout session, you'll understand a little more clearly which units everyone is associated with. So you'll be able to put a name that's on here to a face. So Also, just want to share that we have Valerie White as Senior Executive Director and Lori Barton, Assistant Operations Officer, as part of our Senior Executive team. We have an External Affairs team comprised of our Director, Lachey Young, and Program Officer, Karnika George. Sometimes our programs team is inclusive of our New York State, New York City, and Western New York team. So we have me, Director of Partnerships and Programs, and Christina Della Ventura, Community Development Officer. Our housing team consists of Director Monica Dean, as well as Senior Project Manager Rhonda Lee, and Program Officer Matthew. And then continuing on with Western New York, we have Tyra Johnson-Hucks of Western New York and Catherine Dolan, who we heard give presentation on economic development as Community Development Officer in Western New York. Christina, if you could please, I did put it up, but if you can go ahead and overview the new partner survey.
Okay, so this is what the partner survey looks like. It's just a forms assembly form. If you completed this last year, it's very similar to last year. Some of the questions might be rearranged a little bit differently or a little different, but like I said, it's similar to last year. And so it tells you at the beginning what documents you can upload if you have them, and that's kind of dispersed throughout the form. So I would definitely review this list before you start filling it out. You can stop midway through the form and then continue. But if you want to get this done all in one shot, it's good to have these documents on hand if your organization does have them. So for example, if you have audited financial statements, it's good to have those on hand. If that's something your organization doesn't have, then that's something you would just skip. The required fields are the main things, like the organization name, the contact, the address, but then there's things that are not required because we want it to be as inclusive as possible. So for example, if your organization doesn't have their IRS determination letter, you don't have to upload that there. And so all of these questions are really questions that we need when we're in our systems going to make a grant to a group. These are the questions that we get asked. So it's better to have as much of this information as possible so that we don't have to keep going back and forth over the course of, weeks to gather all this information. We already have it on hand, and it makes any type of partnership process just a lot smoother. Like we indicated earlier, LISC has a strong commitment to racial equity and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we ask about demographics of the organizations, and again, contact information, financial information, and these questions are for everyone to answer, but they're specifically related if you're interested in receiving any type of HUD Section 4 capacity building funding. This will kind of help us to know if your group qualifies and is eligible for that funding. So if you are interested in that, it's especially important to fill these out. And then in the later sections where you could provide a little more information, indicate that you're seeking to build the capacity of your organization and in what ways. We ask about your population served, which counties you serve, which programmatic areas you focus on. Again, this helps us a lot because we can narrow down, okay, these are the, 40 organizations that answered the survey that do small business support work. And now we have this opportunity related to small business. So we're going to look into each of those groups more closely, start doing outreach to them, etc. We want to learn about your goals for the coming year, where you see yourselves going, and how LISC can help you get there. And we want to know from the lending and community capital investment side, what type of buildings you may own or manage, commercial space, affordable housing units, what you're seeking to develop. And so once we know that as well, there's this question, are you interested in learning more about lending products and connecting with our CCI team? You say yes, we're going to share that list with our CCI team so they know to reach out to you as well. And then at the bottom here are those document uploads. Like I said, they're not required, but they are available in there if your organization does have them. And like I said, this helps us process grants and other opportunities more quickly if we have this information already on file.